my Mystics friends. Hey, do you have a vision for your life? Or do you feel like so many people do? Like they're not sure if they're doing enough? Like, is this enough life to justify these years on this planet? Am I good enough, doing enough, accomplishing enough? That's the very raw and moving conversation we're having today, and I'm so thrilled that you get to be a part of it. I think you're going to really appreciate it and add to it, so let's get started.
The Misfit Mystics podcast is in presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners. We invite you, fellow Misfits, to join the conversation with text, emails, or just the messages in the comment section below. As always, you can share this podcast with anyone you think would get it by sending the link below. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Mystics, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us on another Mixed Up Mystics podcast. Hello, Anjanette.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm always impressed when you... that was like,
Wow. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast.
I went back to high school DJ radio mode there. I was going to say that I'm always impressed how fast you can say mixed up mystics, because a lot of times it turns out like
yeah, it can be a real tumbling act if you're not careful.
But you did well. Mixed up mystics. Yes.
Yeah.
Glad
and
to be
then
here.
when we did our Mystics meetup, that was a whole thing too. The Mixed Up Meetup, Mystics Meetup.
Yeah, Messed Up Mystics Meetup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. I mean, don't do that, especially if you're not stretched. It's not. You know.
You have not stretched your brain.
Hey, speaking of podcast,
Yes.
we have, of course, you guys know, we have other podcasts because, you know, like we say, they just make so much darn money. And
They're fun to do.
actually, we just love having the conversations with each other and with you guys. And so the Mystics podcast for us is really engaging because, you know, we get to talk about things a little more openly than we do on some of the Dreamer stuff, because with the Dreamer stuff, it's such a broad audience. But you guys are here listening to this because you want to talk about this stuff. So it gives us some more freedom to talk about things that are important to us.
But we do want to mention that we do have another podcast called Dreamers Live,
Yes.
where we talk about how to human better and intentional living. It's a humorous and honest conversation about that stuff. And I think you guys, sometimes the topics cross over, but there are also other topics that we don't get to on Mystics that are there. Then we also have the Got a Minute mini podcast, which is a fun, just a 15-minute little show that we do where we take one of your writings, usually a humorous and or touching or both column. And
there are no lines.
That's right. And then you pair it with one of my original songs, which is always fun for me to see which one you'll choose. Yeah. So people should tune into that.
There's a very funny one that we just finished, the last episode about love languages, which is really funny because it's true. And but it also has a song on there that you can't hear anywhere else because we've never released it on an album or anything, called Beautiful Mess.
That's right.
And so it's absolutely an episode worth going and listening to and subscribing to.
And that might actually be something you might want to play on this podcast. We'll see what we talk about today because that's got some good honest spiritual content to it.
Spiritual stuff.
Spiritual. Yeah.
Also on just for your, awareness that on October 24th, we'll be doing our next Dreamers Live if you're of the regional audience.
Yes.
So we'll be doing that here in the Ville at Cooper Mill Brewery.
Yeah, come hang out with us. Those are really fun. And if you're not familiar with Dreamers Live, but you listen to Mystics, I promise
you'll fit in.
You'll love it. Yeah,
and you'll love it, and it's great. And
you need to get out and be amongst the people.
Yes.
So join us.
Right. So, this podcast started in a way because you and I both grew up, we came up, as they would say, kind of in the zenith of the fundamentalist movement. So as we joke about, it's it's what are you left with when you grow up in the bedazzled belt buckle of the Bible Belt?
Yes.
And at its height and it's at its shiniest,
And
glitteriness.
also, I'm very impressed that you used the word zenith.
I know, right?
Did you practice?
I did not. That just came
out.
out.
That's a good word that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
very
and
often.
so there's obviously revisionist history. There's tremendous good that happened in that time period. Also, a lot of challenges, and as we've seen, a lot of people came out of that season pretty scarred, and because of that, ended up walking away from faith altogether, or walking away from Jesus because they just thought, I can't do this. I don't
want all the stuff that goes with it. Supposedly,
it was such a real burden on it, and part of that burden and some of the baggage that came from some of that, I think ended up being this thing about expectations, what expectations we had for ourselves, for being right, for being, quote, holy, and for doing all that kind of stuff.
And for saving the world.
For saving the world and getting everybody to sign the insurance policy to get into heaven and to do all these things. And so it was a tremendous amount of human effort and confusion in there that just weighed people down. And I was thinking about today, kind of based on a conversation you and I were having 2 nights ago.
It's because we sit around and talk about spiritual stuff all the
what's
time.
happened is actually our daughter is in a play, and she has rehearsals nightly, like on Sunday night, Monday night, and so you and I are just sitting around looking at ourselves. What do we do with ourselves?
We used to hang out.
And so we were reading, and you're reading this book that we've talked about before, which I love, which is the 4,000 Weeks book, and that spurred this remembrance in us. I think about that season of kind of growing up in the fundamentalist 90s, where there were certain things that were kind of put on people, and one of those things was you got to find the vision for your life. And then it was kind of coupled with books, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but it was coupled with books like The Purpose-Driven Life, finding out what God wants from you, and all these kinds of things, and what your vision is for your life, what you're supposed to be doing with your life, and all this kind of stuff. And
it was big.
Oh, it always had to be big. And then we kind of coupled that in this weird Americana cocktail where we said in America, anybody can be anything, which really translates in you better be something.
You better be something big.
And then we coupled that with Christianity or fundamentalism, and it said anybody can be anything, and you better be something big for God.
Yeah.
So be big for your God in a big country. And
and you take all of that, and if you are like a type A, goals-oriented person, it can wreck a couple good decades for you, i.e.
And people would just ask you, back in the 90s, if you started a job, or you started a company, or you started a nonprofit for something, people would say, well, what's your vision?
What's your vision?
What's your vision?
Yeah.
What's your vision statement? What's your mission statement? And what's the difference between a vision and a mission statement? And you're like, oh my God.
Well, and then you'd find people that had these big vision statements and big mission statements, but and that sounded neat, but what were they really doing?
Yeah, were they really using any of that as a guide?
We were never really good about, getting it down to a big statement. It was like, I don't know, I can only see one step in front of me.
I remember when we first started our own company, Pioneers, and it was a film and video company. We had all kinds of aspirations for the artistic part of what we wanted to do. And
it was going to be huge.
And it was going to be huge, and it has been. And and profitable. But I can remember that, the amount of time I spent flogging myself to try and come up with some vision statement.
I remember.
Said, this is what our company is doing or trying to do or whatever. And I never got that. Now, looking back, I can kind of connect some dots and say, oh, this is kind of who we are. This is kind of what we do. And part of what we do is act as a bridge. We take spiritual truths and we share those with people who would not necessarily deem themselves spiritual or qualify themselves as Christians. Yeah. But we take those spiritual truths and we've been able to communicate those broadly in a lot of different ways. So we've done that with our independent films. We've done that with conversations. We've done that with music. And so,
and that's what we do with Dreamers.
I didn't, but that wasn't something I could have gotten a hold of, or that you and I could have gotten a hold of when we started our company 30 years ago.
Yeah, 30
trying
years
to find
what we're doing didn't fit in a statement.
Oh man, and so this burden of having to figure out what is your vision for your life, what's your mission statement for your life, and then when I think about that, I think there's absolutely no representation of that or qualifier for that in the Gospels. There's nothing in the Gospels that says, hey, by the way, be born again and also make sure you get your vision statement. Hey, by the way, go out and tell the whole world about the teachings of Jesus, but also make sure you have a vision statement before you leave.
That's funny.
And the more I think about it, and I think about Jesus, and as Owen Wilson would say, so I was going to model my life after somebody. I thought, why not JC? And
Owen Wilson?
It was in the Meet the Fockers when he's the carpenter. And he's got
so great.
I figured I went to model myself after somebody. Why not the old JC?
The old JC, and he was a carpenter, so that worked.
Yeah.
I love him. He's like my favorite.
Yeah, so if you're looking at someone to pattern your life after in the Gospels, maybe just pick the main character.
That's a good policy.
I don't see anybody talking about vision statements, mission statements, directives like that. Mm-hmm. And so, as far as I can tell, the vision for Jesus was simply the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. Do whatever it takes to see the kingdom show up in a place. To let the kingdom, so there's this, essentially you're operating from this antenna that says, what is God saying or doing right now? Mm-hmm. What has he taught us to do in the teachings of Jesus? I'm going to go and do those things. And that's the vision. Just go do those things. And meanwhile, you'll do it in a way that's you and that is personal in a lot of ways to who you are, but that's it. Just go do those things.
Yeah, on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah.
The idea, the vision would be like, love people.
Yeah, that's your vision.
Just
but what do you want? But what do you want from me personally? I want you to go love people.
Love people and use the skills that you have to do that.
I want you to do the teachings I've given you. but how? Isn't it like the whole thing about, who is my neighbor?
Yeah.
No, okay, here. Just go do these things. And so...
and you remember also back in the evangelical, with the zenith, as you say, what's interesting to me is that there are so many people who have never left that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I don't mean that judgmentally, but I feel like our understanding or, separately and together of who Jesus is remained the same, but the way that we, I guess, operate or live in that has evolved and changed quite a bit.
Right.
Sort of moved with the times. That doesn't mean those truths have changed, but some people, do you ever meet people that you knew from back then and you think, are you doing the exact same things that we were doing?
I think about that in terms of like our daughter. Like we've always loved our daughter. Our daughter's always loved us. We've always, of course, been her parents. Mm-hmm. And
since she was born.
Since she was born. And so, but how we relate to her has...
As a 14-year-old is
has
different.
Matured.
Yeah.
So how we related to her at 2, how we related to her at 6, and now how we related to her as almost 14, all that has changed and grown. So the idea that our relationship with God would change and grow and how we relate to him, I think that makes total sense.
And the love and relationship that we have with her now as she's 13 is deeper.
Yes.
There's more of her that we understand and know. And so we relate, in a different way.
And she's able to participate in the relationship in a different way.
But I was thinking back to the pressure during that time also which is really the same thing, was to come up with your ministry.
Oh, yeah.
What's going to be, what's your ministry?
Yeah.
And I remember my dad saying, which was great, he's like, to do what Jesus did. Like, you don't need to get a bus or have a TV show or start a ladies' prayer circle. I mean, unless you feel like you should.
Right.
But everybody had to have a ministry. And so the pressure there was on that.
Well, then it would go from there into what's your calling or what's your ministry. And are you an apostle? Are you a teacher? Are you a pastor? All this good. So whatever it was, the fivefold ministry.
Fivefold ministry.
Fivefold ministry.
You're going back. I'd forgotten about that.
Well, I still got some scars.
And you got to be one of those.
So then you had to determine, were you a Libra or not?
And then all of a sudden they switch the zodiac signs on you by a month, and you're like, what am I?
It's essentially the same amount of...
Such a crisis.
I just don't... I don't know why, but...
I don't know.
I don't know why we have become so... literal in all those conversations. I think Paul was just engaging in conversations and observations, and we just took it to the letter.
Yeah,
that means that we should all decide which of these 5 things we're gonna be, and which of this. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know if you can't. Why can't you just act out the thing that's in you and do it and live it out?
Yeah, we made it such a deal. And I remember, people sitting around having these conversations, and there'd be Bible studies and all this stuff. And like we said, there are some good things that came out of it. But do you know what it mostly resulted in? People just being at church, just talking about stuff and not being out loving on people.
Right.
And so it was like,
and then trying to get to the bigger calling or the more impressive calling, or the more impressive spiritual gift. It's not a sexy gift to be hospitable, but man, what an important gift.
It is, right?
But
everybody
we always wanted to be
prophet.
the other.
A prophet or an evangelist. Well, that seems pretty stressful to me.
So part of what brought all this to the surface for me was you were talking the other night as we were at home listening to LPs on a record player,
because
that's
so cool.
Drinking martinis
and
reading Steinbeck, and then you were reading this, the 4,000 Weeks book.
And you really were reading Steinbeck.
I really was reading Steinbeck.
I mean, cultural points to you.
And I really am in a book club for the Steinbeck, which I did not instigate.
We just sound old right now.
I wasn't smoking my pipe, but I could have been.
You could have been smoking your pipe.
So you were nearing the back third of this book, and
shit starts to get real in that book. It's like, what are you going to do with the rest of the weeks? And you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah. So 4,000 weeks, and it kind of is this. Should be mandatory reading for everyone, and it will reorient how we see time, and also the weight and the pressure we put on ourselves. Some things which are part of the human experience, some things which are definitely part of the Americana experience, and then some things which are really accentuated by the Christian Americana experience. Mm-hmm. And in this conversation you were reading in the book, towards this back third of it, was essentially talking about our clinging to time and our clinging to essentially accomplishments that would in some way enable us to justify our lives, justify our existence,
yes. And I
justify
was like,
our time here.
And I remember I stopped after I read that sentence, and I was like, whoa.
Golly.
I was like, I read that out loud to you, and you were like, whoa, because
spent most of my life trying to do that. Yeah.
I mean, the idea that we're here, like, to be, and this isn't a Christian book. It's
right.
There are a lot of spiritual truths in it. Mm-hmm. It's really a social scientist, I think, that wrote it. But the idea that we would have a calling or mission or vision
right.
or ministry statement big enough to justify our existence.
Yes.
When the truth is, what we're trying to accept and learn is that to be loved by God and to love others is the purpose of our existence. It's like the opposite. So that was
life is so fleeting and such vapors that in some way we, on a subconscious level, could talk ourselves into feeling like we were living longer if the accomplishment we made was grand enough to go on even beyond us, to grand enough to mark
to
people
reach
beyond
future
us.
generations.
And so all of that would somehow justify the weeks we've used up here on earth.
Yeah. Isn't that is some deep stuff right there.
It's a lot of weight to live under.
It is. And I mean, when I think...
And then also who gets to decide which of those things have enough value? So if you are the stay-at-home parent, is there enough value in that to justify the weeks
versus
on
somebody
Earth?
who's speaking to thousands of people.
Or leading a corporation, or being a rock star, being an actor, or getting fame or fortune or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Who gets to decide what of those things is enough?
It is amazing. And if you grew up in the era that we did, it can really hang you up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's why I feel like... Because I mean, full disclosure, because we try to be honest in these conversations. You and I started out when we started our company with the idea that we were going to have a creative company. We were going to produce music, film and video, and all these things. That were going to be so. This was the dream,
right?
That we're going to be so creative and have influence over people. And our motivation genuinely was not to be famous or have money, although I don't think we would have minded.
I'm going to cash the check, so.
But the idea that we would be able to open people's hearts and minds to God's love, people that didn't know him. So I feel like our motivation was relatively pure, to use a spiritual term. We weren't trying to be famous or do things just for creativity's sake. Right. And then because those things, although we worked our asses off, honestly, for decades, never reached the amount of people that we thought made it worth our time or were necessary. We felt like failures in our career and spiritually. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, that's what led us to some of the things I think we're doing now is letting some of that go.
Sure.
And it really wasn't about fame or money, although all of us can be tripped up a little bit by that. But our motivation, I feel like, was pure. But instead of looking at all the efforts we made creatively as potential just acts of worship or love or good efforts, we have felt like embarrassed by them.
Yeah.
And that's a result of that era that we grew up in.
Yeah. So there's
that's not anybody's fault.
There's a certain level of shame for doing the right thing.
I know.
A certain level of shame for doing your very best. A certain level of shame for having, the best of intentions and the best of motivations.
Well, and putting all the work in that we did.
Right.
And we did. I mean, a lot of times pure-heartedly and to no financial gain. But
and then, like we've talked about,
failures.
We've talked about this before in the Dreamers podcast, and certainly in the book Big Magic and all that stuff. But this idea of fame, which is in the timeline of humanity, is a really new concept. It's it's in the course of if humanity is an hour, the idea of fame came in at 58 minutes.
Yeah, it basically happened. I mean, there was
So are all the lives that were in existence before fame, are they not enough?
They didn't do enough to earn. Yeah.
If you is the life, and I think he even talks about this in the book. But if you're on the mountainside and you're needing bread, for your family, and that's what you do is spend most of the time grinding up grain and doing that stuff and feeding kids and then going and gathering berries and all that stuff. So does that life not have any value?
Yeah,
because they're not a doctor, a lawyer, or such.
It's amazing. Really, if you think about, we talk about fame in terms of really when it happened, if you think about it, people used to be, if you were a musician in your own village or community, then you were well known for bringing that service in your community, and you might be able to walk and travel to another small community.
Right.
But that's it. It was really the proliferation of, newspapers
media
first, and then mass media, and then radio that even brought fame. So Jesus was, out speaking to a few thousand. Right, like on.
He wasn't selling out stadiums.
That's exactly right. He wasn't on the internet. He didn't have a huge. He wasn't. He was not a international evangelical minister.
Yeah.
Jesus was in his community, reaching the people he could reach. Was his life not worth as much because of those numbers?
Yeah.
It's
and then
blow your
also
mind.
by definition of fame, I mean. It can only be as a low percentage of the population base. It's a small percentage of people who are, quote, famous. If everybody's famous, then nobody's famous.
Ooh, yes.
So can only those people, can only fame, can only fortune, and in the U.S., where, and this is not a political statement, but where 1% of the population holds most of the money of the world, what's to do for the rest of us?
But this idea that we're striving to do something, even if your intentions are mostly pure, that is big enough to justify your existence. That hit me like a sledgehammer.
And
I was like, that's what I've been doing.
And then, spoiler alert, it's never going to be enough.
It's not. Because
you will not make enough, do enough, or be enough to make that feel like it is enough.
Yeah.
For us.
I know. So what do we do?
I guess just die. I don't.
We're having our own epiphany here.
Yeah,
this is some
I think
stuff.
it probably is a reorienting. We say, according to the Gospels, that we are, aligning our hearts or our minds with truth. We say that to remain in Jesus, He will remain in us, and to do that, we hold to the teachings of Jesus. We say that these teachings are literally above everything else.
Yeah.
That this supersedes Western values, Eastern values, American values, whatever it is, party values, that this is the filter we start from. So at some level, we have to reorient ourselves towards truth,
Yeah, and then, wow, I didn't know what we were going to talk about today and stuff, but
I did.
This really hit something for me because, dang it, I hate it when I cry in public.
They can't see you though.
That's good, because I go around a lot thinking that what I'm doing isn't enough.
Right.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, God knows my heart, and He sees my efforts, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And I am not one, as I've gotten older, to think, that I need a lot of feedback from people, or, I'm okay with whatever. But the truth is to know that God sees what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that is enough. I mean, that can revolutionize the efforts and the hoops you make your own self jump through. These are things we do to ourselves,
Yeah, it is a mental ploy, I think, at some level to...
Like, I'm proud of the efforts that that I see you put out all the time.
I'm proud that most days that we get here, that, despite all the distractions and resistance and how we feel on any given day, the idea that we make it into a sound booth and have these conversations, knowing that it might get deep, knowing that you're going to, essentially have to come up with subjects and conversations and all that stuff, and that we still do that because we know there's a value to it.
Yes.
But this thing of creating the impossible goal, this thing of, creating the impossible standard that sets you up by its very nature to feel bad about yourself, to feel ashamed, to feel anxious because you're not doing enough, you're not accomplishing enough, your life's not worth enough, you're going to die. I've said before on this show that, okay, what's your greatest fear? Well, to live a life that's inconsequential.
Yeah, we share that.
That, I would get done and feel like it didn't matter. It didn't matter, whatever, all those kinds of things. And that's not an amazing amount of weight, and what's ironic about all those things, of course, is that in the pursuit of doing these things for essentially immortality, which cannot be achieved, it will suck the life out of you so that you did not enjoy the life that you had. The
mortality that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
so you've spent your life trying to make a life so that you didn't enjoy the life that you had.
So that you could justify your existence in
when
the
you're
sight
gone.
of God or to yourself. Yeah.
when it's over, when you're gone.
Yeah. And the thing that's so insidious about it is not only is that part of American culture, but the fact that it is such a part of church culture. Let's go ahead and take this pressure and let's add some spiritual guilt.
It's always about numbers with the church.
Always. How many? Yeah.
Now and when we were growing up, well, how many people were saved? How many people were there? How many people were at their last church? How many people were at the service? What were the offerings? How much money did come? Are you bigger this year than last year? Yeah. And that's our only matrix for deciding
the measurement. What's interesting, something that both Catholic churches and Baptist churches have in common, this will make you laugh, and I noticed it when I first started going to Mass with you when we first got married, is I don't know if they still do that because I haven't been in a Baptist church in a long time, but the Catholics, you'll still see there's a measuring board. So if you look up toward the front of the church, there is a box and little letters, and it will say attendance. Offering. So in the Baptist church, it would literally say how many people attended the last week, and the number would be listed there. And my guess is in the Baptist church, it was also how many souls were saved, and so there would be like literal numbers about it. And I noticed that in the Catholic church too, that they have that attendance, and that's how we measure.
Well, actually, we don't talk about that much in the Catholic church, but in the Catholic church, it's usually the numbers for the songs and for the readings.
There's that too. But there's also, isn't there another board?
I don't remember ever seeing that, but doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have it.
Well,
but yeah, we do, of course, years and reviews and summaries and all that kind of stuff. But
it's all about numbers when we think about that. And do you remember having this conversation with, there was a friend of ours, I think we were lamenting, feeling bad. We'd made a short film that had some spiritual content. I think it was after we did the Travelers, the reimagining of the Nativity. And we were talking with them about, he was like, man, that was so cool the way that turned out. And I'm like, oh man, thanks a lot. I wish more people, had seen it, or we could have gotten it out further. And he said, well, it touched the people that, that have seen it. And we were like, yeah, I know, but it seems like just a small number. He's like, well, how many would have been enough?
Yeah. Right.
And this person was saying that because they love us. And they were saying, like, would you have felt it was worthy of the effort if it had been, 6,000 versus 5? Like, how many is enough?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you and I were like, oh, I hadn't really thought about, like, are you not going to do it?
Yes.
Because the numbers are lower than you thought they would be. So it's interesting.
So true. Yeah. I remember thinking, that's such a great way to put the question, how many people would be enough for you to share whatever it is you have inside of you? So you have an idea, you have an inspiration, and you think, well, I don't want to do it for that.
It's not worth the effort if only 4 people are.
I don't want to keep writing this or recording that or doing a podcast if only so many people. Well, okay. So you're going to deny people whatever it is that's inside of you that might be helpful or might be life-giving or whatever, because it's not enough, make us feel good about it.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. I mean, we really are numbers oriented that way,
Yeah.
results oriented that way.
Yeah. And instead of looking at it in a way which would be, this person was really touched by this. And even if it was only one, to say, okay,
Yeah.
that's good, you know?
Right.
We go through that sometimes with dreamers. I remember when we
Yes,
first started doing
right.
our dreamers gatherings, you know, we
It
were
would
thinking,
really fluctuate. You might have
yeah,
15
you'd have
one
20
time.
or you'd have 45 or whatever. It was just, and you'd think, is that and it's really honestly the same amount of effort.
Well, and it was
you
a
know?
lot of effort at the time because we're just getting things started. And
Yeah,
so
and you just have to.
anytime you birth something, wow, go back to the 90s.
Yeah, for real.
Birth a vision.
Birth a vision, yeah.
It is. It's a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of emotions involved because you're trying to figure out, am I doing the right thing? And then.
But there was a lot of freedom for us that came. I remember one time you said, I'm just not going to worry about that.
Right.
I'm not going to even count. It doesn't matter. For the people that come, I hope that they walk away with something and they feel encouraged, and that by you sharing, you know,
Yeah.
whatever you're going through, that helps the people that are there.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, because it's really important to the people who are there. We're doing the same amount of energy and effort regardless of how many people are there. And we're killing ourselves fretting about why these people aren't coming.
Yeah.
Why is this not, why isn't this person responding? Why isn't this person coming? I mean, everything we're doing here. And then it was really getting in the way of that. So we stopped running after the people who were not coming and started enjoying the people who are coming.
Yeah.
Even though it was a smaller number at the time. And it's been really, really helpful.
What would you say to somebody like me and maybe others that struggle with this? The idea that you have to have, do you think everybody needs to have a big vision or a big mission? Or
Well, absolutely not. I just think that's a rarity, you know, and that does happen for some people. So I'm not taking away from anything that somebody has heard or done. But I think the focus is on, not to be too cliche, but is on living a good life. And so in our case, for us, that translates into doing the teachings of Jesus. So if you can, you know, on a daily basis remain in him and he remains in you, which we do by doing the teachings of Jesus, then we will bear fruit. That's just the reality of it. The kingdom of God is so, you know, this is obviously, I'm taking this from a passage in the Gospels, but it's one of my favorites. I love this thing that Jesus says, look, remain in me and I'll remain in you. And you will, by doing that, you will bear fruit that pleases the Father. And to remain in him is to do the teachings of Jesus, which could not be more simple. But it's so absolutely true because the kingdom of God is so potent, so is such an amazing active ingredient that the very fact that you're doing this will mean that you will bear fruit. And in the same way that like a tree, you know, we have a couple of fruit trees at our house, and they never labor, they never freak out, you never see a tree freaking out, trying so hard to bear fruit. No, it's just it's literally just the natural byproduct of sunshine and rain and health and soil and this naturally occurring thing that happens. So by remaining in Jesus, by holding on to his teachings, the natural byproduct of that is this fruit, kingdom fruit. And that is the most fulfilling experience I think we can legitimately have.
And, you know, what if we shifted, and I think this is where I've tried to shift over the years. If you got up each day and said, God, who can I show love to today? And who can I give grace to today?
Yes.
And if that means while you're at work or while you're at home with your kids or while you're, you know, doing whatever you're doing, maybe that's the vision.
Yes.
Is just getting up and saying, who can I love and show grace to today?
Yes. Yeah. So
in
Paul,
whatever arena you're in.
Paul talks about that we were, you know, quote, saved or rescued for the purposes of doing these divine works which have been prepared in advance for us to do, which again...
That sounds big. It sounds big.
Which again has nothing to do with our effort. We didn't make the works. We didn't design the works. We didn't create the things. These things have been set in advance for us. That's our confidence that God loves us and, quote, has a plan for us. And we achieve that plan by doing these truths, by doing these teachings, by being quick to listen and slow to speak, by considering other people as more important than ourselves, by being peacemakers, by being, quote, a neighbor or a good neighbor, by finding ways to be generous and kind on every occasion. When we do those things, we walk into these designed works for us, and we accomplish this amazing stuff in the process.
Yeah.
And once again, it's all stuff that is independent of us. We're not creating these things. We're not doing these things. We're not laboring for these things. We're just simply doing the teachings of Jesus, and as a byproduct, this other great stuff happens.
So another way to look at certain situations it would be to go into, like I was at a meeting earlier today.
Yes.
So if I'm going to go into that meeting, and a lot of times if I have to do that, I'm going to be around people, I'll just, say a quick prayer before I go in, like, God, just, help me be encouraging or whatever come from this that you want, and take the pressure off myself. But I'll, you could say, what does it look like to love the people in this meeting today?
Right.
What does it look like to be a good neighbor here?
Yeah. So from a practical standpoint, I think that starts with, what does it take to make somebody else feel comfortable? Well, probably me introducing myself.
I did that today. No one talks to anyone. You've got to talk to everyone.
Probably not walking into a room and just immediately getting on your phone and being quiet.
No.
You just go in and you introduce yourself, and you ask them how they're doing. Find out about their day. Yeah. Find out about what's going on for them and how you can encourage them with the things that come out of your mouth, how you can make them feel loved. And you do all those things to the people in that room, and you will have accomplished an amazing amount.
Yeah.
And none of it you had to go to school for, figure out for, come up with a vision statement for, a mission statement, or any of those things.
The meeting I was in today is so interesting because, everybody gets done with the business and the details and all that's fine. And then what you'll notice is everybody just gets up to leave.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, like, I've been working with these people for 3 years now.
Yes.
And I don't understand why people don't talk to each other. That's like a whole other.
Yeah.
But I had to make myself. So to me today, the work of Jesus in that situation was to go to one person and say, hey, how's your daughter liking college?
Yes.
Huge conversation.
Right.
Great. How's your son doing in band? So we did that. And then to somebody else that's new, let me get your phone number, and you want to text, and maybe we'll get coffee or whatever that is. And I felt God's presence in that, because that is my vision for today. Yeah. On a good day,
Yeah.
And I'm doing the right thing. And those people were encouraged and they felt loved.
Right.
And maybe, we were always so caught up in, like, having a vision for our life and a ministry and outlining all these things. Maybe it works conversely. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Where,
well, I'll let you know.
Where we actually end up looking back over our life and seeing God's vision that way.
Most of it you can only see in the rearview mirror.
Because now I look back at the years we spent and how we felt bad about some of those efforts and ashamed, and dang it, this makes me cry again, because we struggled with this so much, and now I see the beauty in the efforts that we made. Yeah. And how hard we worked. I see that as an act of worship. I do remember
that there was a project we were considering doing, and I was asking myself, okay, is this worth it? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Because it would be a tremendous amount of effort. Yeah. And then I thought, okay, so of all the creative projects you've done, which one do you wish you hadn't done? Not one of them. Yeah. I mean, in my mind's eye, I wish, that it had a bigger audience or a bigger reach, or that I know of or that I saw. But I've loved every one of those projects, and I've enjoyed doing every one of those projects, and every one of those projects has meant something to us. Yeah. So I'm not disappointed that we did any of them. Yeah. So just get on with getting on. Yeah. And there's too many why questions or how questions that get in the way sometimes, or how questions and stuff. So if that light is in you to do something, then just go do it. Yeah. Especially if you have the means and the feasibility to do it, and you can't get away from it, it won't leave you alone or whatever. Just to go do those things. Yeah.
Just go be amongst people. And I think often.
But we do have to let ourselves off the hook that there is, in most cases, aside from Jonah and a couple other people, there is no grand vision. There's not a giant thing. No. There's not. We complicate it too much, which actually is another part of this, which stops us from doing anything because we're waiting on something else.
Yeah.
So we don't go do the things we can do because we're saving ourselves for the thing that's probably never going to come.
I have this vision of this picture of somebody just sitting there with a notebook,
Yes.
waiting and listening and crafting this perfect vision and how it's
Right.
going to work. And they're in that room so long waiting for that
Right.
and writing it down that they never leave.
They missed it.
Yeah.
They missed the
And
chances.
That's what I don't want to do.
Right.
I want to spend the remaining years that we have, the rest of my 4,000 weeks. Well, for one thing, I'd like to be proud of myself.
Yeah.
And you know how I mean that. I would like to be proud of the efforts that I've made and not embarrassed by the fact that they didn't measure up to myself in some way. I don't need to justify my existence through my effort and productivity for God. My value is because he loves me.
Yes.
And I did not know that I was going to be so moved today by this, but this is a big thing for me.
Yes, it is. It's a big thing
Confessions
for
in
a lot
front
of
of
us.
people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
The thing about, I do think there is a thing about kind of correcting or changing our thinking and how we see ourselves. There's a thing about being grateful for the things we get to do on a daily basis, like you did today at the meeting, and to be used in such a way as to convey the love of God to people. That's an amazing thing. And so there's something about being intentional about being grateful and thankful and saying those things out loud, because that kind of builds us up and encourages us in the process. So the fact that we got to make a tangible difference to somebody today by encouraging them and loving them and expressing that's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
The idea about not being duped so that you don't get to enjoy the life that you have by waiting on a life that's never going to come. That's a big deal. We've talked about this experience we had, where we went to the funeral for our friend who happened to be gay, and how amazing his funeral / wake was, and all this kind of thing, and how taken aback we were, because you're there. You don't know what that experience is going to be like. You and I are kind of separated in the crowd, and then while we're still separated, the programming starts.
Yeah.
And we can't get to each other because there's too many people in the room. And so we're just there, and this kind of wave of God's presence comes into the room. You're like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
And I wasn't counting on this thing happening. And then you and I kind of make eye contact, like, man,
Did you feel this?
golly. And then I remember thinking, as they were going through this, and somebody was making some remarks about the final days of our friend's life and how difficult it was, and then the people who did good and all that kind of stuff, I was thinking, gosh, here's this amazing thing. You have whole church buildings full of these brilliant, beautiful, wonderful, loving people who are thinking, I just wish there was some way I could help people. I just wish there was some good I could do. And then you had our friend who was dying, who needed people. And I'm thinking, okay, if all these people who are looking for something good to do, and they're trapped in this building, trapped waiting for permission to be with somebody like our friend who happened to be gay, and that's all good that could be done. And instead, we were just waiting
for the vision
waiting
statement.
for Godot. And you're just like, I don't know. I mean,
it's
we do waste ourselves a little bit waiting for the grandeur and waiting for the big thing when we could just be getting it on. And the reality is that if God has a vision for you or has direction for you, he will let you know. You will not miss it. It will come. And, as long as we're not discounting it because it's not esteemed enough,
I remember, it's kind of an interesting analogy. I had forgotten about this, but it's kind of like when you and I started our business. We were super young and right out of college, ill-advisable.
Yes.
But no, we survived. The city that we live in, you guys know what that is, had a program, I think it was through the Business Economic Development Office, where there was some grant funding available to businesses.
Yes.
If they could submit their 5-year plan and how it was going to grow. And I understand from the perspective of an economic development office, they're trying to build jobs. And at the time, we were young enough to think that our company was going to be bigger.
Right.
And I remember us going to have an initial meeting with someone that was there. And this person meant well, but they said, well, where's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
And we were just doing the initial consults. And then as we tried to put one together later, it wouldn't come.
No.
There was, and now looking back, I see why, because we've done so many different things. We're really down on ourselves for not being able to do that. And ironically, the gentleman who was, judging the different proposals said, well, I tell you what, I get what you guys are kind of doing, is a little bit condescending at the time, but here's a really good 5-year plan. So why don't you take this and study it?
Right.
And the irony was that the company that had that plan and got the money went out of business in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we're still here.
Right.
And my point is that there's no way to really measure or to know what was going to come.
Yeah.
So you may have the perfect vision. You may have all these things that you think are going to happen that you can put into this plan. And God may show you little step by little step and change that and divert your path. And that's also beautiful. And we're still here.
Yes. Right.
So it's interesting that we put ourselves through so many hoops, and often it's us that does that to ourselves.
Yeah. So you were asking about what we could do in a situation like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You probably have some ideas on this. I mean, I think there's some practical things we could do. Like the idea of celebrating, on a daily basis, the things that we got to do in a day
that were good,
that were helpful, that made someone else feel better and feel loved, and was a really life-giving thing.
Yeah, I like that idea to celebrate those things.
The thing of being able to say thank you, God, for using me that way. You could have sent that love through anybody else, but you chose to use me today.
Yeah.
And that really means a lot to me that I got to do that with you, and thank you.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing.
And looking back over a day, instead of thinking, I go through this sometimes if I sing somewhere and it's a small, situation, instead of thinking, that was pretty good, but there were only 12 people there, whatever it was, to be able to say, thank you, God, that for the people that were there, that I know that in this one song, I could tell that they were touched.
Yes.
They felt your presence.
Right.
And that is good enough. So to look backwards over things or in reverse and say, I love that idea. Thank you for using me to encourage that one student today.
Maybe another way to another approach on some of this would be also to say, we ask a lot for God to help us to see people the way He sees them, but maybe we could begin to ask for help from God for us to see us the way He sees us.
Like, how do you see me?
He's not harsh on us like we are.
We're harsh on ourselves.
Yeah. And
He's proud of us.
It's not a matter of being braggadocious or conceited or whatever. Yeah. It's a matter of saying, there's a confidence that comes when you know that you're loved. There's a confidence that comes in knowing who we are and what that looks like. And feeling good and feeling energized and who God made us to be. Yeah. That's delightful.
Like Brennan Manning says, he talks about this one priest, and they would take a walk or something, and the priest would laugh and smile. He said, "What are you laughing about, Father John?" And he said, "Well, I know the Father, and the Father's really fond of me."
He's quite fond of me.
He's quite fond of me. But I love that.
That's the truth of it, you know? And,
I mean, every day, with our daughter, I know you do this too, even when she's being very 13. So much, Arno. So much. But anyway, at the end of the day, when one of us is putting her to bed or whatever, I'll say, I'm proud of who you are.
Yes. Right.
And I think God does that for us every day.
Yeah.
So we have to let the way that He sees us infuse our heart.
What a great way. What a great prayer to God. Thank you for making me the way you did.
Yeah.
Okay. God, thank you for making me who I am.
And and even to be proud of that in a good way. Like, I am this one of a kind reflection of special gifts and abilities that God made.
Yeah.
And, there's only one of me. And for those that are listening, there's only one of you.
Yeah.
And you're a beautiful one-time expression of who God is. Mm-hmm. And to try to do the day that way, right? Instead of looking back and feeling like it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this is rocking my world.
Well, it's important,
but
though. It's important for you. It's important for you, and it's important for me, and it's important for a lot of people, and that we stop beating ourselves up and stop belittling our lives and our impact, and and stop wasting the years that we have, or the weeks that we have, waiting for something else that's not going to happen, because that's never been what it was.
Yeah.
So it's time for us to get on to the good life that we have and embrace the good we can do, and to do the good we can do.
Yeah.
And start enjoying that instead of, languishing in the other. So
that's so true.
Yeah.
So let's skip the vision plan and just go.
Your vision should be to quit beating yourself up.
Yeah.
That's the way to
Quit
do it.
beating yourself up and go and love people in
that's
whatever
what
way you can.
What was it we used to say at the end of Mass? Go in peace to love and serve each other.
Oh, that's good.
What was it? It was to love God and love and serve each other, something to that effect.
That's so good.
Yeah, go in peace. Now that you've done this, now that we've all been here and we've had this communion together and each other, leave here in the presence of God and go and love and serve each other. Just do that.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it makes every day, your existence is justified each day.
Yeah, exactly right.
in being who you are and in loving others.
And being loved by God.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for making me cry 6 times.
For the record, I didn't say any cuss words this time. And
oh
you
my
did.
gosh, I
all
know.
All of them, all the words.
I said all the cuss words? Oh, well, you know how I am.
Mystics, we love you guys. Thank you for letting us have this conversation with you. Please, as always, like, subscribe, share this with somebody. We really appreciate that when you do it. Feel free to send us notes about this message or any of the conversations we've had. And then you should go out and talk to somebody else about this stuff. But meanwhile, go do the good you can do.
Yes.
Peace out, friends.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend. And check out Pioneer Dream's other podcast, Dreamers Live, a conversation about living intentionally. And Got a Minute? A podcast that pairs short humor columns with original music. This podcast is a presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners. Thanks for listening.